So one NFL team is going through a literal nightmare right now as they got the worst news possible regarding one of their most important players on the team. Then at least one more team is bracing themselves for a similar possibility for another player they just traded for. Basically, it's already getting bad around the NFL for a couple of teams, and the season hasn't even started yet. So I've got to talk about that along with a few more injury scares, Travis Hunter and Ashton Jeanty hype in full effect, a couple of holdout or hold in updates, and more right after. First up, after we found out yesterday that Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford is dealing with a back issue causing him enough pain that he needed an epidural to help alleviate said pain, head coach Sean McVay spoke a little bit more optimistically here. He shared today that Stafford will work out before their preseason game on Saturday, and if all goes well, he will practice on Monday. That is after he's yet to practice at all this training camp, so that would obviously be a great thing. They've said all along the plan for him is to be ready week 1, so we'll see if things continue to trend that direction as the next few weeks go by and he ramps up for week 1. If not, it's going to be the old trusty veteran Jimmy G. The news for the Rams doesn't stop there though, because edge rusher Jared Verse reportedly bumped his knee with teammate Braden Fisk during practice this afternoon, and he had to be helped off the field by the training staff. And while Sean McVay said he hopes it isn't a big issue after practice, hours later, Verse took to social media himself and ultimately said he's fine. So it seems like it's nothing too serious, maybe a bruise or something like that. So good news there for the Rams. Another young defensive lineman hoping to make an impact in 2025 is 49ers rookie Mykel Williams. After leaving practice early today with a knee injury, there was quite a bit of concern over the health of the 11th overall pick. Well, thankfully, similar to the situation I just talked about, it sounds like they may have avoided anything serious because Kyle Shanahan told the media that Williams had a good exam after practice, and the hope is that he just hyperextended his knee. That obviously sounds worse than a knee contusion, and if that's the case, I would assume he's still going to miss a bit of time during camp, but if it's not too severe, he should be back for the regular season. And then we just got some not great news on cornerback Ennis Rakestraw Jr., the Lions' second-round pick from last year, Sunday. So a few days ago now, during the very first tackling rep at practice that he tried to make, he came down hard on his shoulder and left practice early. Dan Campbell told the media afterwards, or later on this week rather, that he expects him to be out a while, which didn't sound great, but the door seemed to be left at least a little bit open for the injury not to be season-ending. Well, we found out earlier today that Rakestraw ended up having to undergo shoulder surgery, which was successful, so good news there, but it was season-ending, with the Lions officially placing him on IR today. But sadly for these next two players, the injuries that they went down with today look like they could be season-ending and is confirmed season-ending for one of these two players. The one we know for sure is Chargers left tackle Rashawn Slater, who went down with a lower leg injury during practice today. From the jump, things did not look good. It initially appeared to be an injury to his left leg, and he had to be carted off the field, and while on the cart, he was visibly frustrated, throwing his helmet and slamming his hand onto the cart. A trainer then placed a towel over his head, and he was helped inside by two of them as he couldn't put any weight on his left leg. Basically, the picture that was painted by beat reporters in attendance was a dream situation for a team with arguably the best tackle duo in the NFL that quickly turned into a nightmare. Our worst fears were confirmed later on today when it was revealed that Slater is feared to have suffered a torn patellar tendon. That's a season-ending knee injury with a recovery timeline of 10 to 12 months, and sometimes for the big guys in the trenches, they never return to the same level of play. This is the same injury that Chiefs rookie offensive tackle Josh Simmons suffered last year in college, and a big reason why he fell to pick 32 in the draft. Teams were afraid to take a chance on him because that is a very tough injury to recover from. One of the craziest parts about all this is, just a couple weeks ago, Rashawn Slater became the highest paid offensive lineman in NFL history after signing a 4-year, $114 million deal that included $92 million guaranteed. The contract was well-deserved, as Slater has become one of the best tackles in the league since he was a first-round pick back in 2021. Last year, he was the second highest graded tackle in the league, according to PFF, and he was looking to build onto that heading into his 5th season. So while that's sadly not going to happen, one of the only positives from this situation, aside from him getting that contract signed so he got that money secured, is that they did talking about the Chargers, draft Joe Alt in last year's draft in the first round. And he played left tackle in college, so he will most likely kick over to that side, which will at least somewhat help absorb the loss of Slater. That injury cast a huge shadow on a very small ray of light that was the return of wide receiver Keenan Allen, who signed with the Chargers a couple days ago and was seen out there for his first practice today. But man, I just hate seeing that for Slater and his family, that team, even though they are a division rival of the Chiefs, because no matter what team said player is a part of, injuries are freaking awful. And then another potentially serious injury took place today, this time over in Houston. Texans safety Gardner Johnson left practice with what at the moment appears to be a significant knee injury. Apparently, he sustained the injury while making a tackle on receiver John Mechie III. He went down and was in major pain, not being able to put any weight on his right leg. From there, he was carted off, and practice then resumed, although it was described as a pretty somber scene. The next step will be for Gardner Johnson to get an MRI, and we'll find out the full extent of the damage from there. Obviously hoping for the best here, but based on everything we've heard out of the Texans camp so far, it does not seem very promising. That's potentially a really tough loss for the Texans, who just traded for him back in March, acquiring him from the Eagles for Kenyon Green and a late-round pick swap. The thought was Gardner Johnson would add to an already stacked secondary that features Derek Stingley Jr., Kamari Lassiter, Kalen Bullock, Jalen Petrie, and Jimmy Ward. And speaking of Ward, his status is still very much up in the air at the moment, because not only is he still on the PUP list with a foot injury, but he's also facing potential legal consequences from a DV arrest back in June. So if this injury to Gardner Johnson is serious, that spells bad news for the Texans secondary, at least in the safety room. Beyond Gardner Johnson, there's another injury to report on in the AFC South. Jaguars defensive tackle Arik Armstead is in danger of missing the first game of the regular season, and possibly even more than that, as he's currently dealing with a back injury. Jags coach Liam Coen said that Armstead is dealing with a sore back, and that's caused the 10-year vet to miss the last 3 practices during their training camp. Well, the concerning thing is that there doesn't seem to be any timeline to return for Armstead. When Coen was asked if he would be ready to go week 1, he said, "I would think so. It's hard for me to say right now, though." Armstead is heading into the second year of the 3-year, $51 million contract he signed with Jacksonville last offseason, and after an underwhelming 2024, all things considered, Jags fans were hoping for a step up from him this year. So we'll see what happens there, but let's stick with the Jags for a second and check in on our favorite two-way superstar, maybe in Travis Hunter. The question that people have had about the young rookie is, of course, whether or not he will actually play both sides of the ball at the pro level. 13-year-old GM James Gladstone and Mr. Duval himself have been pretty adamant from the jump that they intend on playing Travis on both sides, and so far, through the first couple weeks of training camp, that does appear to be exactly what's happening. Coen recently appeared on the Rich Eisen show, and when Rich asked him what a realistic expectation would be in terms of an overall snap count on week 1 for him, here's what Coen had to say.
If he's playing 80% of those snaps or so, defensively, and you look at trying to be able to match that number as much as possible.
The biggest takeaway to me from that answer is that he started detailing his expectations for him on offense first, and then made it seem like his involvement on defense would kind of fit in around that. It's also very telling that on the Jags' initial depth chart, they had Hunter listed as a starting wide receiver alongside Brian Thomas Jr. and De'Ami Brown, yet on the flip side, he's slotted as a second-string corner on defense behind Jarrian Jones. No matter what the final snap count ends up being, I, for one, am extremely excited for Travis Hunter's rookie season in the NFL. Hopefully, Trevor Lawrence can have a career renaissance under Liam Coen, similar to Baker Mayfield, because if that's the case, that offense could be very scary with weapons like Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter, as well as Tank Bigsby, Travis Etienne, and the rookie Bashal Tutin. Travis Hunter is not the only rookie that's been getting all kinds of hype this offseason, though, and this should come as zero surprise, but Raiders rookie running back Ashton Jeanty has been turning heads all throughout camp out in Vegas. Jordan Schultz has been hearing the same things from his sources out there, adding that all the pre-draft buzz about his balance, explosiveness, and natural feel as a runner is truly the real deal, and honestly, beyond just his ability as a runner, I've seen multiple highlights from him this offseason, routing up defenders and making some impressive catches. As a Chiefs fan, that is not my favorite thing in the world to see, but as a football fan, it's hard not to root for a guy like Ashton Jeanty after seeing him dominate the way he did at the college level. The guy was just 28 yards shy of breaking Barry Sanders' all-time college record for rushing yards in a single season after all, so there's a reason why he was drafted 6th overall by the Raiders back in April, and I've got to say, between him, Brock Bowers, Geno Smith, and Pete Carroll, the Raiders offense could be in for quite the turnaround in 2025. Next up, while Terry McLaurin is still without a new deal from the Commanders, we recently found out just how far apart the two are in negotiations. There's been reports that Scary Terry wants considerably more than DK Metcalf's $32 million per year, but Jeremy Fowler appeared on Get Up this morning and said that he was told the Commanders have only offered him slightly above what he was at before, which is $23 million a year. Fowler called it about $7 to $8 million that they have to bridge, which is a pretty significant amount. Now, this next part should come as no surprise, but Fowler said that Washington has gotten calls on McLaurin, and there's interest league-wide in teams that might want to try and trade for him. The front office seems to hate that idea, as do I. It's hard to envision the Commanders trading away Jaden Daniels' #1 target after everything they've done this offseason has told us they're trying to win now. I don't really believe that Terry wants out of Washington either. He just wants more money. Another guy that's vying for what he thinks he deserves is Steelers defensive tackle Cameron Heyward. Cam has been at Steelers training camp, though has been somewhat of a limited participant, not fully taking part in every practice. Honestly, on the outside, that doesn't seem abnormal for a 36-year-old player, but he's also seeking a contract restructure after the defensive line market has exploded this offseason. Last offseason, he signed a 3-year, $45 million extension with the Steelers, but of that $45 million, just 16 of it was guaranteed. As of right now, he's scheduled to earn $14.75 million this season, though nearly 13.5 of that has already been paid out to him in the form of a roster bonus back in March. Adam Schefter said that he and the Steelers have addressed this privately, but no progress has been made on a reworked deal at this point. Well, the reason he wants more money, aside from the market continuing to rise, is because despite getting up there in age, Cam is coming off arguably one of his best seasons yet, as he posted 8 sacks and 12 tackles for loss while appearing in all 17 games. That was good enough to earn him his 4th All-Pro selection, making the first team for the 3rd time in his career. One idea for a short-term solution would be to convert some of his $13 million non-guaranteed 2026 roster bonus into a 2025 signing bonus, basically giving him a raise for this year and then crossing next year's bridge when they get there. We'll see what ultimately ends up happening here, though the good news for now is that he is at least out there practicing in some capacity. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. There's going to be more as these preseason games ramp up. I just hope the news that we report on isn't a bunch of injuries. So with that, I'll see y'all next time.